teaching that you've had up until today about the subject, put it aside and listen with an open mind, as if you would be joining a class about some other subject. You would decide that you'd like to hear the different issues, and you wouldn't right away accept something. You would listen and decide that you want to make your decision according to your logic, your understanding. The issue of Zionism and Judaism, you've been taught for many, many years by a view that you accepted is the Torah authority. You've been taught this. At the same time, you must know that there is communities that are extremely religious, that give their lives for their religion. In other words, they're practicing Jews. They're Jewish people who spend all their money on education for their children. They don't send their children to public school. They send them to separate boys and girls, religious Jewish schools. When they're not lawyers, doctors, they're poor people. They pay fortunes for the schooling. They pay fortunes for the kosher products. They give their lives basically to serve the Almighty. And they come from generations and generations of Judaism, of parents and grandparents who died in the Holocaust, who died because they were Jews. And these people, for some odd reason, are very, very opposed to Zionism in the state of Israel. And that's for anybody to see, and it would be very difficult to refute. You come to New York, which is the most concentrated center of religious Jewry. You go to Manhattan, cross over to Williamsburg, most concentrated religious Jewish area, and you won't find one Israeli flag. Now, if they're giving their lives for Judaism, why such a basic issue of Judaism called Zionism they would not accept? Why are they opposed to this? They're giving their lives for something. They're not looking for respect from people for what they're doing. They're giving their lives, and yet they oppose Zionism. Isn't that strange that the more the religious, the more anti-Zionist? One of the communities has always ridiculed the Mea She'arim Jews, the Jews in Jerusalem, who have been living there for hundreds of years. Why are they anti-Zionists? Why are these Jews, the ones who are the most attached to their religion, the ones who are and never had a gap in their religious practice for hundreds of years, why don't they accept the state of Israel? Now, you can say Meshiga, you can ridicule, you can do all those things, but at the end of the day, what are you going to walk away with? With some knowledge? Or you're going to walk away satisfied? You're going to be able to go sleep peacefully because you're doing something that you've done for all your life, and it's convenient, and you'll keep your friends, and everybody's going to ridicule you, they're not going to make fun of, they're not going to attack you, so you'll be comfortable. You ridiculed, you laughed, you scoffed, and you went home. If that's what you want, say your statement, say Meshiga, say radical, go ahead and go, you can go to sleep. It's a pity to sit in the sunlight. But if you're really looking for truth, if you're looking to hear something, listen. I'm not saying accept, listen. And with God's help, I'm not only speaking to Jewish people, we speak to the world at large, the Muslim, our Muslim brethren, we're speaking to the Christian populace in the United States, how big they are, who support Zionism, who are just standing on the side and wanting to hear. Basically, before I start, being that we're just 3 days before the high holidays, and our issue with Zionism has nothing to do with a hobby. It's because of our attachment to God and our covenant with God that I speak. Therefore, I want to just implore all of you to really think logically and understand what is Judaism as a whole. We made a covenant, not only our forefathers, but we ourselves, we believe as a Jewish people, our souls were on Mount Sinai, and we made a covenant with God to accept totally His rule and His teaching. There's no such thing as reforming the Judaism, being more conservative Judaism. There's one thing, the acceptance of the covenant that God gave us on Mount Sinai, as our souls itself said, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do, and that we've done for thousands of years through all the trials and tribulations when Jews were being murdered because they refused to step away from the Torah in the Spanish Inquisition, in the Gezeres, Tach v'Tat, in the many other times, crusades. Jews stood by their belief. And here we are in United States, where you have the opportunity to practice your religion, are you just doing what's convenient, going to a modern synagogue or something, because, or are you, as you are on a college campus, looking for a future to set a path for your life of truth? If that is the case, then remember, we have only one teaching, and that's we're not allowed to stray one iota, not to add and not to subtract. And the Torah, we made our souls personally, each one individually, made a covenant with the Almighty to uphold the Sabbath, kosher, family purity, and whatever else. And it's possible for all of us to do because God, who made this covenant, the Almighty, understood that we are able to uphold the covenant. It's not daunting, it's not impossible. And we can do it, and if you'll do it, you'll see you can do it. Part of this issue, of course, one of the fundamental issues today is something that speaks in the name of Judaism, which is called Zionism. With God's help, I'm going to give you this window to shed a light on something that I want you to, with God's help, that you should want to study further. In very concise terms, Zionism is the transformation of Judaism from this subservience to the Almighty, this covenant with God, the acceptance of the Torah, spirituality, only spirituality, that's what it means to be Jewish, accepting this covenant with the Almighty, and this is a transformation from that into a base materialistic issue, nationalism. A selfish goal of sovereignty, to have a piece of land, to have our own state, to basically taking God out of the equation. Not a covenant, an acceptance of God's rule, acceptance of my rule, of having a sovereignty. For whatever reason, you may consider it compassionate, but it is your own interest because you want a sovereignty, you want to be a recognized nation amongst nations, and it is a total transformation of what Judaism is. Judaism is not democracy. Judaism is antithetical to democracy. That doesn't mean you not be a loyal citizen in the United States under democracy. But Judaism means that we are accepting God's command even if we don't feel comfortable with it. That is what it means to be a Jew. If not, then you turned away from your covenant. So to call Judaism, well, you can be a reform, you can be conservative, you can do this, you can do that. We have free land, we're free people, we're very liberal, we're very cultured, we're not backward people, we're not fanatics. Then you're not Jewish. You're not doing your Judaism. You're fooling yourself. You're just trying to look good in the eyes of other people. It's because you have an inferiority complex of what it means to be Jewish. That's what it means. If you're a proud Jew, then it means you're a proud a soldier in the army of the Almighty. And if you hold how great the Almighty is, then you would be very proud to walk with your insignia, with your uniform as a Jew. As the Chafetz Chaim said,
how dare you?
that the tzitzis, instead of hiding your tzitzis in your yarmulke, you go with your tzitzis in your yarmulke, Yorei Malka, fearing God, you're covering. Why? Because if you would be very proud of your general, of your commander, then you would go with his symbol and be very proud of it. And that's what it means, Judaism. Zionism has its goal of nationalism. Zionism, therefore, is antithetical to what it means to subservience and spirituality. At the same time, Zionism has, in every facet, is either blasphemous or rebellion against God in every concept. Let's take the next concept, to have a national home. Why? Because some of them will claim that the reason they're doing it is because of anti-Semitism, that Jewish people suffered anti-Semitism. Many of the people, the fathers of Zionism, didn't come through this because Theodor Herzl and the others, I'll soon show, with God's help, their issue was totally different. They simply had a burning, driving passion to uproot from the Jewish soul their connection to the Almighty as a religion and transform this into nationalism. They weren't just satisfied with leaving Judaism, as many of the people in their generation and others left the fold and just assimilated. No, they had a goal to take and uproot from every Jewish soul their connection